Come on, Ray, keep pedaling.
I'm trying. I don't think this tandem street bike is right for this trail out here in the woods of Randolph, Maine, though.
No, it's definitely not an off-road bike, but we're going to have to make do. So we're biking along the narrow-gauge volunteer trail bike path that runs along the old Kennebec Central Railroad line.
All right, what are we looking for out here?
We're looking for a ghost.
A ghost? Why are we riding this thing then?
Because we've come to the woods of Randolph to search for the ghost of a man they call Bicycle Larry. Hello, I'm Jeff Belanger. Welcome to episode 355 of the New England Legends podcast.
And I'm Ray Auger. Thanks for joining us on our mission to chronicle every legend in New England one story at a time. And we can't do it without you. We love when you share your story leads with us. When you join our New England Legends Facebook group, download our free app, and post reviews for us. All that helps the movement and helps us bring you a From the Vault each and every Monday and a new episode every Thursday.
So we'll go searching for the ghost of Bicycle Larry in the woods of Randolph right after this word from our sponsor.
I mean, the woods are already a scary place, especially when it starts getting dark.
Yeah, that's true.
But then you add in a haunting.
We do. And a true crime element with an unsolved mystery that doesn't date back very far. And you've got something unique here in Randolph.
Now, Randolph, Maine is a small town situated on the banks of the Kennebec River, just south of Maine's state capital of Augusta. At one point, this trail was a narrow-gauge railroad track that ran about 5 miles from near the bank of the Kennebec River in Randolph through Chelsea and on to Togus. The sole purpose of the Kennebec Central Railroad was to transport passengers and goods to and from the National Veterans Home in Togus. It was about a 20-minute train ride. Today, it's the Togus Veterans Administration Medical Center, the nation's first VA hospital. This railroad served the Veterans Home from 1890 to 1929.
That's really cool. And I'm guessing by the 1930s, roads with cars and buses made the train obsolete.
Well, pretty much. So the train was taken off the track, and the track slowly rotted away back into the woods. In 1985, some local Eagle Scouts made it a project to clear the old tracks and the roughly 1 1/4 of a mile of it that resides in Randolph and make it a trail for bikes, walkers, and runners.
Well, that's a nice thing to have in town.
It is.
We're now standing by the entrance of the trail, which sits just off of Water Street, right next to an IGA grocery store. At the trailhead, there's a sign next to the trail that runs by a small pond and onto the woods of Randolph. Along this trail is a place where some witnesses claim they see a man on a bike who disappears. It's a man some think they knew in life. They suspect he was murdered.
Now, that would be Bicycle Larry.
That it would be. Others say the woods go strangely silent in places. No birds, no sounds, nothing. Can be an unnerving place. So let's head back to the year 2004 and check this out.
It's mid-October of 2004. George W. Bush is in the White House. She Will Be Loved by Maroon 5 is the #1 song on the radio, and Shark Tale is the #1 movie in the box office. Here in Randolph, Maine, autumn is getting colder, and some folks in town are worried.
They're worried because a local icon hasn't been seen lately.
Now, that icon of a man is Lawrence Farrell. He's 55 years old. He can often be seen at the Bread of Life Soup Kitchen in Augusta, or you'd see him all around Randolph, always riding his bicycle, which is why everyone knows him as Bicycle Larry.
Bicycle Larry's a friendly guy, always kind and offering a smile to his neighbors and those in town. People know him and are always happy to exchange a few friendly words when they see him around. On any given day, Bicycle Larry rides the 8 miles to Augusta for some food. And on the first of the month, he'll head to the Kennebec Valley Mental Hospital to collect his Social Security check.
Bicycle Larry has always struggled with alcohol, which is why he's mostly transient and taking many of his meals at food pantries and soup kitchens.
When he's in Randolph, sometimes he'll stay with his friend Norris Perry in Perry's trailer home over on Fairview Avenue. Perry's 64 years old and often lets Bicycle Larry crash at his place when he needs to.
Perry claims he hasn't seen Larry recently either. But that's not shocking, considering sometimes Larry will go on a bender, or he'll stay at a shelter in Augusta for a few days. It's not unusual to lose track of him now and then.
The days of October continue turning colder. The leaves have changed colors and fallen, and pretty soon it's November. And now people are really worried about Bicycle Larry.
People like Rob Shore, the director of the Bread of Life Soup Kitchen. No one has seen Larry in a month. But he also found out that Larry hasn't gone to pick up his Social Security check for November yet.
And that's not like him at all. And pretty soon, an article makes the newspapers. Ray, go ahead and read this headline from the Morning Sentinel.
Okay, it reads, State police search for Bicycle Larry. State police are searching for a popular transient known to many as Bicycle Larry. The article ends with a phone number for the state police so people can call them and give them any tips they have about his whereabouts.
Now, as November turns to December and the weather turns colder, well, now people are really worried Larry passed out somewhere and maybe froze to death. It's Sunday, December 13th, when police respond to a call from Vicki Gill in West Gardner. Gill is in a panic, saying she just received a voicemail from her brother, Norris Perry.
Whoa, that's the guy who lets Bicycle Larry stay at his place in Randolph.
Right, that's the guy. So Gill said she received a troubling voicemail from Perry that said he murdered Bicycle Larry. Perry finished the message by saying, "You'll find Farrell's body in the brook behind his property."
Police race over to Norris Perry's home on Fairview Avenue. When police don't get a response at the door, they search the area around his house.
Over here!
That's when they discover the body of 64-year-old Norris Perry in a wooded area just a few hundred feet from his trailer. Perry took his own life.
Given the circumstances, police believe they now have an answer as to what happened to Bicycle Larry. Law enforcement bring in cadaver-sniffing dogs, and they start digging near the brook looking for the remains of Bicycle Larry.
For days, the search continues, but police find nothing. With winter getting close and snow becoming more regular, they soon decide that they'll need to call off the search, then explore the area in the spring when everything melts.
It's worth pointing out that the Perry property on Fairview Avenue is no more than 2 football fields away from the old narrow gauge trail. Police realize they'll need to expand their search. When spring melts all the snow, police are back with the cadaver dogs and the search parties. However, they still find nothing. There's no sign of Bicycle Larry's remains or his bicycle. And that brings us back to today. It's been 20 years since Bicycle Larry went missing. He's never been found.
That's so strange. I mean, considering Norris Perry confessed to the killings and then took his own life, you'd assume he was telling the truth.
You would. The message claimed the body was buried, but those cadaver-sniffing dogs are incredible. And they can smell human remains up to 10 feet deep in the ground. And there's no way someone's digging deeper than that if they're, trying to get rid of a body.
No, you wouldn't think so, no.
So what remains is a haunting. Today, the 1.25 mile old narrow gauge trail starts right next door to the IGA supermarket on Water Street in Randolph. Then it runs northeast where it crosses Route 226, just about 600 feet from where the Perry property stood on Fairview Avenue.
And all of this is in close proximity to where Bicycle Larry lived, rode his bike, and close to where he likely died.
It is. And when no body was ever found, that haunts us. We need some kind of closure, some answers. Here was this likable transient guy who everyone knew by sight around Randolph, and one day he vanishes. Add in the confession of a dead man, it's no surprise those out walking this trail sometimes connect with a man who pedaled his bike around here 20 years ago. The woods of Randolph are spooky, and if we're to believe some of the locals, they're also haunted.
That they are. And that takes us to After the Legend, where we dig deeper into this week's story and sometimes veer off course.
After the Legend is brought to you by our Patreon patrons. Simply couldn't do what we do each week without our mighty patrons. They help us with all the costs it takes to bring you 2 stories each week. They get early, ad-free access to new episodes, plus bonus episodes and content that no one else gets to hear. And they get discounted tickets to our events. It's just $3 per month. It goes a long way in helping the cause. Head over to patreon.com/New England Legends to sign up. And to see some pictures of the old narrow gauge trail by the great Frank Grace, click on the link in our episode description, or go to our website and click on episode 355. And also, in our episode description, just like last week, we put a link to buy tickets to our first ever New England Legends live show, Saturday, September 21st in Milford, Massachusetts.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait. Tickets
Absolutely.
are selling fast. And I think from this point on, they're going to go into extra fast speed.
Yes. That
makes sense.
Don't get technical. Keep it simple. So this story is not that old, and it's pulled right out of the newspapers. It all happened. You would assume if someone says, "I know where the body's buried," and then they take their own life, that they weren't lying.
No, maybe there was an accomplice who moved the body.
I don't know, but
maybe it was one of those things where the whole town was in on it. You ever seen those movies?
Yeah, that's a lot of
It's like
people.
7 or 8 people.
In my experience, when you add more than one person, it's pretty tough to keep up a conspiracy.
Right.
Someone's going to talk.
Yeah.
But no, I get it. I think every community has some local transient that's actually likable. And you get used to seeing them, and they're no harm to anybody. They're not going to hurt anybody. Everyone knows that.
It's a little odd, a little off.
Got their problems, their demons that they're struggling with, and making do, riding his bike, and I'm sure gets lifts from people on rainy days and so on. But then when you stop seeing him, you notice.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon people go looking, and then to hear that story, it's also troubling.
And it's sad when you lose that person in the community.
Of course.
Because they're a part of the fabric of your community.
They're a fixture, and you get used to it. And on the one hand, you want him to get his life together and get on his feet and stuff. But on the other hand, like, you'd probably miss the person that, that
his quirks, everything about him.
His bike and everything else. But so tragic. And so this trail is spooky, and it runs by this pond and by this brook, and it's dark. To me, the most troubling thing was, people talk about how, parts of the woods go silent. I spend a fair bit of time in the woods, going for hikes or walks,
working
or
leisure,
looking for weird stuff, you name it.
Burying.
Woods are always noisy. If there's a breeze, the trees are creaking and leaves are making hissing noises. There's
animals,
critters, there's birds, there's all kinds of things that make noises in the woods. The scariest thing I imagine you could ever hear in the woods is silence.
Right?
It doesn't happen. It's not supposed to happen.
Right.
If you hear silence, something bad is going to happen.
There's something wrong with the world if the woods are quiet.
Isn't it funny? Like, have you ever been around a tornado?
No. In a car, yes, but not. I never heard a tornado.
Where I lived at one point as a kid, there was the sky turned green, not black, like army green.
Wow.
And everything got still, and you didn't hear a sound. And like my instincts as a kid was like, something is very, very wrong.
Well, they call that the calm before the storm.
No birds are chirping. The animals can sense the pressure change, the barometric pressure change. They're taking shelter, whatever they got to do. Everything is completely silent, not a breeze, nothing. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, just, like everything just went everywhere.
Yeah.
And I remember looking out the window. We ran inside. Hail's coming down. The weather was moving horizontal to the ground. You could see debris and rain moving horizontal,
like sideways,
sideways.
Yeah.
Like, that's how bad the wind was.
That's what horizontal means, right?
Yes, right. Anyway, so it was just, and the house is getting pelted with like golf ball size hail, and it's breaking shutters and stuff.
Where were you when this happened?
We were living in Pennsylvania at the time. Okay. This little town in a valley, and
scary.
We were only there for a few years, but we had this epic storm. And then, and it was just, we heard the train sound. There was a tornado, although it didn't go through our neighborhood, but it was nearby enough that it did touch down. And it wasn't like the ones that make the national news, but holy cow.
Yeah.
That little thing
did
all that. And imagine the big ones,
that
you see, that do make the news and take out a whole town. I can't even imagine.
But I experienced one in a median on the highway, and it was small, but I saw it. I'm like, oh, that's spinning.
Yeah.
And it moved the car a little bit as I was going like 50 miles an hour down the highway. It's kind of scary.
You're like, I'll take it. Come on, let's.
Right? I was going to jump out, video it.
What was Days of Thunder? You always aim at it. It'll be out of the way by the time you get there.
Yeah.
Maybe not with a tornado. Whatever. I'm not going to tell you how to drive.
Yeah.
But no, scary stuff. And anyway, but silent woods to me is the most frightening, because you assume some horrible weather's about to happen. But if something supernatural,
or just something horrible, supernatural, exactly,
makes all the animals go quiet, they're like, ooh.
Yeah, they know. They're in on it, I think.
Right.
It's like, let's be quiet and scare this guy.
Yeah. So the town of Randolph still reports seeing the bicycle, or seeing the guy on a bicycle, and he disappears. The trail cuts right through pretty much the middle of town, and it's a pretty little spot. I imagine people go for walks there. It's well maintained.
Yeah.
Wasn't always, but it is again. And the trail is now closely associated with the ghost of Bicycle Larry, who would occasionally crash just a short distance away, at Norris's house. So,
and I'm sorry if you're walking the trail and didn't know anything about the story. We just ruined the trail for you.
Yeah, right.
And now it's haunted.
Yeah, there's no sign there, but there is this story, and it really happened, and it was just 20 years ago, which is enough distance to have a buffer, but not enough to. There's plenty of people in town that knew him for sure.
Hit that subscribe, like, and share button wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss a minute of the weirdness. And we deeply appreciate it when you take a minute to tell others, post your favorite episodes on your social media, or just shout about us in the streets.
Happens all the time.
The more people listen, the more who contact us about their own local strange tales. And the whole thing keeps growing. So, please get involved.
We'd like to thank our sponsors. Thank you to our Patreon patrons. And our theme music is by John Judd.
Until next time, remember,
The bizarre is closer than you think.